Be with us, Lord, as we hear your word and share your holy meal. Help us to be so fed by this nourishment that we walk out into the world filled with your power and grace. Amen. Our readings today echo the theme of Jesus as our good shepherd, including the beloved 23rd Psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And many of us know this psalm by heart. God's promise is to protect us from the power that death has, the power to instill fear in us and keep us from trusting our shepherd. This means all the small and large deaths in our lives, the actual death of loved ones, broken relationships, the endings of all kinds. Perhaps this is about quieting our fears as much as anything. Anyone who's been around sheep knows that it's impossible to help a trapped sheep unless the sheep trusts the person trying to help. If the sheep panics and struggles, it works towards its own destruction. But when the sheep knows its shepherd, fear vanishes, and the shepherd can lift the sheep with strong arms and save it. Our gospel today reiterates how this plays out for us. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. He knows us by name. How powerful that is. The resurrection narrative from the Gospel of John has Mary weeping outside the tomb. Jesus shows up, and she doesn't recognize him. Then he says her name, Mary, and she knows it is Jesus. You too can be assured that Jesus knows you by name. When you're feeling lonely and bereft, try saying your own name to yourself and let that voice be Jesus' voice. Another passage stood out today in today's gospel. Jesus boldly asserted, "I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd." To me, that's pretty obvious what this means. It means God is not done with us yet. As Dave Lose, a Lutheran pastor, says, God continues to call people from all walks of life, from every nation on the face of the earth, and from each and every generation. God is at work in our midst, and one day the members of Jesus' flock are beyond our imagining. Jesus Christ's mercy and grace are for all. Jesus continues to bring us the message of a transformed world, a world where we are all one flock and not divided by all the barriers and boundaries that we've created. The kingdom of God. Our readings today also tell us how this will come about. We are the vehicles which will help make this happen. Surprise! This assignment is called the New Commandment, that we are to give our hearts to God's Son, Jesus Christ, and to love one another. This means that we are living witnesses to Christ's message by how we act out his love. With God's help, we walk in his path, taking on the mantle of a shepherd as he did. Yes, we are called to become shepherds like Jesus. Not just to be part of the flock. To follow Jesus means we are to become like Jesus in our care for others. In the first letter of John, we're reminded, "Little children, let us love, not in word or speech, but in truth and action." The resurrected Jesus asks us to be followers of the way, not just following, but becoming different people. We are to participate in God's unfolding dream. One of you sent a story called, "Excuse Me, Are You Jesus?" I don't know the author. I've told this story before, but it's worth repeating. So here's how it goes. A few years ago, a group of salesmen went to a regional sales convention in Chicago. They had assured their wives that they would be home in plenty of time for Friday night's dinner. In their rush with tickets and briefcases, one of these salesmen inadvertently kicked over a table which held a display of apples. Apples flew everywhere. Without stopping or looking back, they all managed to reach the plane in time as they were nearly missing boarding. All but one. He paused. He took a deep breath and experienced a twinge of compassion for the girl whose apple stand had been overturned. He told his buddies to go on without him, waved goodbye, told one of them to call his wife when they arrived at home, and explain his taking a later flight. Then he returned to the terminal, where the apples were strewn all over the terminal floor. He was glad he did. The 16-year-old girl was totally blind. She was softly crying, tears running down her cheeks in frustration, and at the same time helplessly crawling on the floor, groping for her spilled produce as the crowd swirled around her, no one stopping and no one caring for her plight. The salesman knelt on the floor with her, gathered up the apples and put them back on the table, and helped her organize her display. As he did this, he noticed that many of the apples had become battered and bruised, and these he set aside in a basket. When he had finished, he pulled out his wallet and he said to the girl, "Here, please take this $40 for the damage we did. Are you okay?" She nodded through her tears. He continued on with, "I hope we didn't spoil your day too badly." As the salesman started to walk away, the bewildered blind girl called out to him, "Mister!" He paused and turned back to look at those blind eyes. She continued, "Are you Jesus?" He stopped in mid-stride and he wondered. Then slowly he made his way to catch the later flight with that question burning and bouncing about in his soul. "Are you Jesus?" Do people mistake you for Jesus, or at least a follower of Jesus? That's our calling, is it not? To be so much like Jesus that people might see the face of Jesus in us as we live and interact with a world that is often blind to his love, life, and grace. If we claim to know Jesus, we should live, walk, and act as he would. Knowing him is actually living the word as life unfolds day to day. You and I are the apples of his eye, even though we too have been bruised by falls. He stops what he is doing, gathers our brokenness, and picks us up, you and me. We can do likewise for each other. Dear Lord, our shepherd, help us to be your love, your shepherds in this world. Amen.